Welcome to Quantum Kinetics First Diffusion Season 3, Episode 8. I'm here with
Randal Bird, the COO and president of Quantum Kinetics Corporation.
Oh, you want to be CEO, huh?
I don't.
Okay, welcome back to the show. What are we going to talk about today, Randall?
I'm really excited, McKane. We've got a couple of really great topics and a little bit of a secret we want to show today.
Okay.
So we're ready. So we're going to talk about spent nuclear fission fuel and spent fission fuel. And we need to speak a little bit more about those. But before we do, we got a little bit of recognition that we want to give out in a couple of areas. And one is we're really grateful because we hit the 500,000 500,000 subscriber count over the past week. Brother,
hey, congratulations.
That is no small feat.
The largest nuclear fusion podcast in the world with 500,000 subscribers and growing around 2,000 subscribers a day.
Yeah. And on that note, we also want to acknowledge and thank from the heart to McKane, Brighton, and Jason for all the work to do to educate, to inform, to do what's right by taking us to that next level and helping inform and instruct everybody who watches and listens. And we appreciate them. Thank you, everybody, for coming along and helping this become quite the movement. And as it carries on, we look forward to the things that are coming. But we also have something that we're going to get into here shortly, and I can't wait. But first, we want to take our question from the audience.
All right, great.
And are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm suited and booted.
Okay, so we're taking this from Joe Glory 425. And Joe, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. It was our handpicked question for this episode. And Joe asks, how about using it, being our technology, for hazardous waste disposal? Can you turn a bottle of weed killer into something that no longer contains the weed killer chemical? Can you quickly turn wood into charcoal? Can therefore you turn this like into carbon and water molecules? His thinking was that if you can manage to preferentially target hydrogen, you might be left with something similar to charcoal. And maybe this is kind of part of that forever chemical discussion, but in this case, we want to know about transmuting elements into this category and maybe back into safe and inert materials. So what do you think about this? What do you think about hazardous waste with weed killer and this kind of thing?
Yeah, so weed killer and also PFAS, which are forever chemicals, are really notoriously difficult to chemically change and get rid of. But if you have a new technology that can hit, nuclear fusion temperatures of 11.6 to 15 million degree temperatures, you can actually cause the molecules of the PFAS and weed killer to break apart. Like the actual electrons, protons are rearranged in a nuclear spallation event, thus causing them to break down into something else. And on top of that, Randall, we found with our research during long exposures to nuclear fusion that and these elements that are noxious and bad, they actually start growing like iron oxide carbon material around it, thus causes like a fusion vitrification process, kind of like a time crystal goes around the elements that are not transmutated, and thus causing them to be blanketed with basically love and suppression of the radiation signatures. So it brings the radiation down. And so that's what we do here at Quantum Kinetics with our technology, is that we can hit temperatures that are, 1 keV all the way up to 20 keV, which is essentially 200 million degrees to 11.6 million degrees. And those X-ray emissions, they knock off the electrons, they cause protons to fall into each other, causing this thing called CNO, nuclear burning. And then you have these little microstars that are forming inside our reactor as an iron carbon crystal. And that is inert.
And so that encompasses any waste into a microscopic magnetic rock.
And we're going to talk more about that with the nuclear fusion spent fuel versus the nuclear fission spent fuel today.
Cool. And so that answers that. Joe Glory 425, thank you again for bringing that question forward. There will be more on that coming later in the episode, as was alluded to. So we appreciate that. Hey, next, before we get into some of the topical stuff,
You probably noticed something on the table here with a tarp over it.
We are excited to share with you Quantum Kinetics Corporation's first diffusion solution for rad waste treatment, with our first product specifically designed for rad waste cleanup, and that is the QKC Blackbox.
That's right. This is a 1/29th scale intermodal container for nuclear fusion transmutation. So go ahead and lift the veil.
Grab the other side. One, right, 2, 3. There we go.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. And it also has lights that come on too. And we have the top that can open up as well. And so what you're looking at inside of here is a 1/29th scale intermodal container that has a cluster of nuclear fusion transmutation devices that are water processing units with 2 tanks. And it also has a electronics region that is a safe region over here. So you have the nuclear fusion hot zone, which has the X-rays, and then you have a confinement zone. And you're also, if you look closely, you can see that there's a basin. So whenever you're doing rad waste stuff, you have to have a secondary containment. And sometimes you even have to have a third level of containment. So if there's any type of leaking action, you confine it inside your reactor. Like when you have a nuclear fission type of reactor, they have the rods, and then they have a secondary containment underneath the concrete.
Right.
Just like they're supposed to have.
They're supposed to, yeah.
And, people do cut corners, but we don't do that here. We're going to be doing it right. And so this is our scaled model. Do you have any questions about it?
This thing is a thing of beauty. So what we did was we've taken some of the existing technology that we have that we've tested and proven, and we have used stacked modes for combining a certain amount of these both across in a grid, and we know how to move them through. And we're setting flow rates and things like that for treatment. But we're very excited because this takes the concept and turns it into our hardware, turns into the functional thing that we're ready to send out into the world as a product of Quantum Kinetics Corporation. The black box is revolutionary.
And this will be deployed, Randall, at SMR they're small nuclear reactors like fission, and it'll be processing the coolant there. It can be used at remediation centers, like if you have spent nuclear waste at like Fukushima or any of these dry dock locations around North America. I think there's 40 of them now. And so, this can be utilized, plugged into, it's deployable, it's modular. You can bring it wherever you need to. You can lease this out to you guys to have it used for, NRC cleanup. And I think there's something about cleanup that we should talk about.
Yeah. Interesting, because we were doing a little bit of research and little noodling, because as we start to get ready to break this out, some of the research that we've done, we needed questions answered before we started to deploy and get ready in this. And the Nuclear Policy Act of 1982 came to mind. There was a lot of work that was attempted by the government to gain a foothold on containment, handling, storage, transportation. All of these elements started to look a lot like a very official document. And there are some questions that we had, because there were some things that became apparent they were not solving the problem. There was a $15 billion cost overrun in these last 43 years. And honestly, have they made it over the hump yet?
No, unfortunately, the 1982 Policy Act was essentially used for a permanent repository for spent nuclear fission waste, like the rods, like the uranium cores that they pull out, right? And those hot nuclear rods, they go into water as a cooling, and they stay there, or they go into a cast, a stainless steel specialized cast that they hold it, and they try to cool it down. Because if you go near that spent nuclear fuel that comes out, you can die. Like, it's so hot. It's screaming gamma. It's screaming alpha particles. It's screaming X-rays and neutrons. And so you literally, these spent nuclear rods have to go somewhere. And the government and Congress was like, let's pick 3 places where we could put this stuff.
Right.
And one was Hanford.
Right.
The second one was Yucca Mountain in Nevada. And the third was Deaf Smith County, Texas.
Right. And Yucca Mountain was the one that was kind of highlighted in the Nuclear Policy Act of 1982 as the reference for many of what they were talking about for the standards and for the practices in the policy.
Correct. And actually they picked, one of the presidents picked Yucca Mountain officially. And so they started boring into it, and they spent $15 billion, like you said. And guess what they found out? Is that essentially they can't store the waste there for several reasons.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
One, there's a water table under there.
Yeah, and they have to talk about burying it underwater too.
Second of all, that they found there's potentially oil down there, and actually Niels Gorsuch, the Supreme Court judge, basically said it in a Supreme Court hearing for the NRC versus Texas that there actually is oil. They found oil under there, so they cannot put, because it's a national thing about oil, and so it had to go on. So the thing is, today we are making 2,000 metric tons of spent nuclear fuel a year, and we still don't know where to put it. And there's a total of 95,000 metric tons of already spent waste.
Yeah.
And so we're going full speed ahead, and we're going from 100 gigawatts nuclear fission to like 400 gigawatts of nuclear fission in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right. And so we've seen references in the policy to some of the ways that the government was contracted to do the handling and the storage and so forth. How far did they get with this? Has this ever gone to where they feel the money was of any value, or did this become a big, large sunk cost?
It unfortunately was a very large sunk cost, and unfortunately that the taxpayers have to pay now on this. Like, they have these specialized regions where they have private storage regions of property, and they also have government private security regions where they have the spent nuclear waste, either wet or dry nuclear waste. And so the stockpiles of this rad waste is just growing and growing and growing and growing. And everyone's just getting new permits and renewing them every 40 years. And by the way, it's supposed to be interim, which basically means it's supposed to be short term.
Right.
But 40 years is not an interim. That's long term, right?
Right.
And so there's no the thing is, we are forging forward with all this energy, but we don't have solutions for the waste. For example, like when a nuclear fission material cladding is a zirconium aluminum, it's a rod like this. It's a tube. And this is not the radioactive material. This is just the cladding that holds it. What they do is they take nuclear fission uranium, and they're little pellets. They're like half-inch diameter pellets like this. This one's actually super long, but they're a lot smaller. And they line them up inside the cladding, and then they put them in a pile of a whole bunch of grid, and they emit a huge amount of neutrons and radiation, and it just boils water. Now, here's the thing. What is very interesting, Randall, is that the uranium spent nuclear fuel of uranium is a half-inch diameter pellets. Our reactor, the electrode, is exactly 1/2 inch, the same diameter as the nuclear spent fuel. We can put, and by the way, what you're looking at here is an actual electrode that has been doing nuclear fusion for 12 months. And this has been ground down because all the sediment was built up on all that carbon, like the nuclear fusion.
Can you take that a little closer to the camera?
Oh, I think it starts getting blurry, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll do a B-roll on that. But this has carbon, iron, nitrogen, and oxygen oxides that is magnetic. And this stainless has become magnetic in its own way, too, because of the fusion process.
Right.
And so what we can do, ladies and gentlemen, is we can treat the rad water waste, but we can also treat the spent nuclear fuel and slide it into our nuclear fusion reactors too, and cause the uranium to become encompassed in this crystallized glass of fusion.
So does this another transmutation step to achieve that?
Yeah, it's the same process, but now the electrode becomes encased in it. And it's actually quite fascinating because we've actually done research where we pulled the electrode out of some rad waste at a private facility that we can't say their name, but we pulled out the electrode, and it was only 24 hours.
Yeah.
And it was caked with black sediment. I mean, you couldn't even see the stainless. It was black.
Right.
And when they had that electrode dipped in nitric acid for a certain amount of time and then pulled out, and then they had the nitric acid tested for rad waste, like it was clean. It was background radiation. So whatever that stuff had encompassed around the uranium, the strontium, and all the other nasty cesium stuff, it made it inert, the sediment. So that's amazing.
Well, that's a high value proposition for somebody that wants to get rid of waste, maybe.
As some people have told us over the phone that your company could quickly become a multi-billion-dollar company rather quickly because the rad waste storage is a major pain point for NRC, for IAEA, for the government. It's
Right.
a problem.
Right. Well, back to our black box and some of the stacking and the intermodal pieces that we are able to build now.
And it's cheap.
And it's not expensive. We don't have to go get exotic materials, long lead items, things like that. I mean, it's maybe not at Costco, but you could still. Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
You can build a nuclear fusion reactor from parts from Amazon. All the parts are on Amazon.
I don't know if that's good or not. Remember the books that used to be out there and videos and stuff that showed how to make the bomb, right? They showed you how to make a nuclear bomb.
They did?
Yes, they did. That was part of education back then. I'm sure that some of the world's proliferation problems have come from what they thought was education, and it really was giving away things they probably should.
You know what's worse than that is that the nuclear spent fuel that's going to these private regions and these government regions that are just sitting there, that's actually more of a problem. You know why? Because terrorists could attack that.
Yeah.
That is actually what we're doing here at Quantum Kinetics is super duper safe, and we have solutions to big problems. What we're doing is a national security threat to our country because one, our taxpayers are paying a lot, and two, we're just storing this stuff in the open. We're not putting it underground because we can't. And you know what's funny is the gold standard for rad waste storage is put it into a rock. Why not just grow the rock around the rad waste, and then you've got your solution right there?
Right.
Just a thought.
Well, just a thought. So from a product standpoint, then if we get this out and we start making it happen, so to speak.
Yeah.
We had said in a previous podcast that we believed we could do most of the world's or most of the country's rad waste problem in about a decade. Do you still believe with our current technology and our ability, without any further growth and study and improvement, that we could make enough of those to do that and still do it in a decade?
Yeah.
We know we'll refine it. We know it'll get bigger. We can do that.
Yeah.
This is to get us off the starting grid, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit then about...
You're going to let me answer the question?
Sure. Yeah. I'm so excited. We got more topics and I'm just itching to go because this is going to be fun stuff.
The answer is yes, because we have done rad waste test so far, and we've treated 300 or 3,000 milliliters of rad waste, and we cleansed the uranium by 80% in 24 hours. And so that's 300 milliliters. It's basically almost a gallon. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was with one reactor. It wasn't even a full stacked reactor. It was a 2-stacker, and we can stack these to 6 or 8 at a cluster, right?
Right. And still maintain the same power.
Yes, because of the pulsing that we have, the patented, copyright protected, all that stuff. That's really the sweet sauce, is that we have found a way to create a pulsing system that is super efficient. That
ring.
Ding, 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 ding. It basically, and the electrodes do ring. Actually, that's what's funny is like when we pulse it and it's not pulsed anymore, it's still ringing.
Well, my favorite analogy is from Jason with the tuning fork.
Yeah.
It's a little harmonic, isn't it?
It's a harmonically oscillated resonant cavity.
And you want to know what the really another cool thing is? This entire outfit in this black box has about the same power consumption as a modern gaming computer for the whole thing.
It's a quantum computer. This technology, ladies and gentlemen, is the future. It's the quantum computer. It's the nuclear fusion reactors you guys are spending billions of dollars trying to figure out. It's basically the AI that solves it for you immediately. Everything in this black box with nuclear fusion using arc reactor fusion on demand is the solution that you guys are spending money on. And it's here, it's available. We're working to get it deployed right away for you so that you taxpayers do not have to pay, another $15 billion to drill big holes in the ground for no reason at all.
Yeah. And it's not just that. This is also, think about it in environmental terms as well, not just cost. Let's say that we're not making any new nuclear waste because we're treating it before it becomes, it's at the end of its cycle. Plus, standalone stuff is being treated, and we're going to work on how we can manage that. It's going to take a little bit of cooperation to break it open and do it, but
there's procedures for opening up a clad, a cast clad that has spent nuclear waste.
Pieces.
Well, those aren't even vitrified. Like those claddings that hold the spent nuclear waste that are in dry dock, you have to take them to a certain location to open them up and lift them out. What we would have to do, just procedurally, we'd have to pull out the actual little tiny pellets, and we may even have to like weld them together so that when we pull them out, we can actually slide them into our reactor, and so that it treats the whole region, right? Because you can see on this electrode, I mean, it has been treated. And by the way, this is 12 months of nuclear fusion continuously, 24/7, 7 days a week. And this is what the electrode looks like. It's still intact, which is amazing.
It would still be considered functional.
And actually, there is a thought that if we use the uranium, or we use an americium, or we use a plutonium, fuel source, spent fuel source in the fusion reactor, that the sediment that it makes might be something useful for a new industry that we've never even thought of before, potentially.
Right. Yeah. Are we at liberty to discuss any of that yet?
Well, we've hinted at it a few times on the podcast, so go check out the other podcast if you haven't.
Yeah.
But I don't really want to get too much into it, but I will say it's a metal hydride type material.
Yeah. And there's that spawns a whole different thing, and we'll talk about that.
Quantum batteries.
And we have talked about it before.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to take one more step forward with this too, because in order to deploy this in a way that's consistent with current setup and structure, we've seen some changes in the nuclear industry in the last even couple of years. The new administration, for example, has done some things. And I want to talk a little about the Advance Act, and I'm going to read the acronym. It's a long, slurry one. Pardon the pun.
Oh, go for it.
Accelerating Deployment of Versatile Advanced Nuclear for Clean Energy Act. And it was created to streamline regulatory process and accelerate the deployment of advanced nuclear technologies, where, in my mind, we have hit the right time, the right place with the right tech. Because as far as deployment, this is clearing the way. And I also want to bring up the Price-Anderson Act, which continues liability protections for commercial reactors and DOE contractors through 2065.
What does that exactly mean? Does that mean that contractors get preferential treatment if they have solutions?
No, I think there's the liability protection. Probably, I'm speculating enough of this. I didn't get a chance to dig the deepest of the research. What I was trying to do was make the broader point of what the administration and the current nuclear trending is favorable to us being able to deploy quickly with less encumbrance. In other words, marketable.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where I was going with this. We can get into the weeds on the acts and so forth, but really that's the main point. We have a product then that is less encumbered than it would have been probably just a few years ago from a regulatory and deployment standpoint.
Well, if you want to talk about regulation from the NRC in terms of nuclear fusion, because our technology is different than fission, it's fusion. And so our regulatory umbrella is under the CFR 1030 and 30.2, and that just basically is particle accelerators. And because in that definition of the NRC, and the thing is, like, we don't exceed those values, like 1 million volts or transmutation of rate. We don't need shielding. We don't need that much shielding. We transmutate what's in the water or in the vessel. We don't transmutate things that are that far away, like the rest of the hot fusion guys do. And we don't really need those kind of permits. So we're kind of a unique technology, Randall, because we're kind of outside the boundaries of NRC. We're below them,
Yeah.
but we do have solutions for fission.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have solutions for energy, but we're going to hold back on those for a while because we want to really focus on the history and getting the past fixed before we move forward. Because good stewardship and responsibility is if you have a messy room, you got to clean your room first.
Right.
Then you can go have breakfast.
Well, and there's also room when you come back into the room after breakfast, you can walk around and not trip over a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Put in the Nintendo and start playing Super Nintendo and,
So, by the way, I'm going to bring in real quick as an aside, McKane is quite a chemist. I'm going to call these out.
Hey.
The strawberries are back and, oh my goodness. I don't want to get into the bar sample of this, but it's not filled with anything radioactive, but boy, I'll tell you, I feel a glow inside.
Well, this is like star burritos. These are organic star burritos.
There you go. Man, that is good.
We'll probably, if we get really going and we start doing like events, like public events where we have, rent out a space and do dances and stuff, we'll just hand out strawberries to everybody. I mean, just to celebrate, like
a little open bar on strawberries,
and invite all the firefighters, that have PTSD and stuff, and
amongst others.
Yeah,
maybe some of the DOE workers.
What's interesting is I kind of want to tell you a story.
Yeah,
real quick about I was born in Kelso Longview, which, if you don't know, that's just north of Oregon, right on the border there. Mm-hmm. And there was a nuclear fission reactor called the Trojan Nuclear Power Plant. You ever heard of that one?
I've heard of it.
Okay, so it doesn't exist anymore. They blew it up.
Why did they blow it up?
Well, there are some conflicting stories, but I want to tell you a story that my mother had. She's an OB nurse. She had delivered babies down in Kelso Longview. And as you may know, the Columbia was one of the waterways that the nuclear fission Trojan reactor was using to cool the fission material. Well, while she was doing work there, the hospital saw a spike of mutations from babies. And it was very alarming. And so shortly after that, they closed the reactor down. They turned it off. And the reason they turned it off is because if you go online, you can look at it. It says that they were having fractured cooling pipes, concrete weeping, and a host of other problems that were very expensive to fix. And so they did a calculation and found out that it wasn't worth keeping the reactor alive. And so they ended up blowing it up and getting rid of it. Now the mutations of babies have dropped. But what I'm trying to say is that even every nuclear fission reactor is going to have waste. Period.
And with that comes risk.
Yeah.
And as you saw from the numbers of instances where babies were being delivered with some kinds of deformities or otherwise, there was a correlation to the rise when it was trying to be operational, and there was a decline after they blew it up.
Yeah, and actually, what's ironic is now that property is like a park where people take their dogs and stuff. So
they're three-eyed dogs.
It's a Chernobyl. But what the point of the story essentially is that anytime you do something in the universe, you're going to get a reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple.
Well, isn't it true about every action has an equal opposite reaction?
Well, and that's why love is so important, Randall, is because if I show you love, if you're mean to me, right? Like you say mean things to me and I just show you love and truth and I just tell you like, it's okay,
You're heaping coals on me.
Yeah. That's what nuclear fusion is doing. It's just like, look, you got a piece of uranium that's really pissed off and it's an angry baby that's sitting there in the open cold and crying and doesn't have a blanket, doesn't have milk. It's screaming and nobody wants to deal with it. The baby is crying. Nobody has a solution. They just want to walk away and put it in the mud.
Yeah.
But hey, guess what? We have a solution. We can put it in a blanket, get it warm, put a little beanie on it, and then we can turn it on and it'll just wrap it up in love into a rock and keep it quiet. Isn't that great?
Well, that's a solution worth pushing for, isn't it? So down the road, we've got some other things that we're talking about too. This is the wrap on season 3. episode 8. And it's really been kind of a reflective journey for the amount of education that you and Brighton and Jason have done. Do you have any highlight moments you want to talk about? I mean, there's a few.
Switching gears.
I just wanted to put, because we're over a half hour now, so I wanted to head towards putting a bow on this. But I know that we should do some kudos and stuff. Do you have some highlights from you and Brighton just knocked it out of the park with your previous episode?
Brighton did a great job on the Charles Steinmetz, talking about, this idea of back EMF electricity that has extra current from like Oliver Heaviside. And that's what nuclear fusion's based off of. And that was a great one. You should check it out. Jason is always a superstar, talking about vector swirls and potentials, and, Victor Schauberger and Ken Shoulders. I mean,
he comes up with some really great questions for you too.
Those are all on the fly. He is such a sharp, smart individual and inventor that when you're having a conversation with him, he just gets right to it. He just cuts right through it like a sharp knife and goes, tell me about that. Tell me about that. And he's so smart, and we just love having him on the show. So thank you so much for being brave, because this is a challenge.
Well, in the future now, so turning to season 4, and I think we're going to be refabricating the content a little bit to be a little bit more on the product side, and I don't want to call it an infomercial, but in a sense, we're ready to talk about our deployment and building and the exciting parts of making this company come out and be viable in the marketplace. And we can't get into the details of some of the steps, but we've taken some significant strides now.
Oh, you hinted at it, and I love that you hint at it, because you're always like dangling out there.
I can't wait to see where this goes. The season 4 is going to be episodes that practically will write themselves. We have felt like Riley's been doing the chronicles of this adventure, and he's working on our new book too. But this is a story that writes itself. It literally does. It's in the news. It's in our correspondence between legal, between marketing, on down the list of things that keep moving about, these juxtapositions of things and how things shift. And we have been on a ride, just unbelievable what we've seen.
Did you think that like the journey of bringing something as pariah as cold nuclear fusion forward to the world and industry would be an easy task? No. Would it be a straight and narrow path? No, it's a curvy, windy road of dirt and people shooting at you and throwing mud at you, and like you're carrying this thing through it's tough. People were spitting on you, and I say to you, that's okay.
Yeah, we still love everybody along the way. And one day there's going to be a day, and it's going to happen. There will be probably a press conference. There will be some significant announcement. There will be a change, and hopefully it comes with a change of heart from being received as not just by the public, but even by those who we would be working with in the future. Yeah. Because we have to do it together. We can't do this alone. We can bring it out. We can show the world the technology works, but to advance it at pace, it's going to take some help.
That is 110% true, because the story of actual nuclear fission was actually Fermi in Chicago at a university when he first came up with the idea of a controlled nuclear reaction. What he did was he had a bunch of rods of uranium and he slid them into a pile right on the table. And he was able to vector the fission power of the rods on the table, and generate electricity that was stable, or energy that was stable. And that little tiny benchtop model that Fermi did for the nuclear fission reactor, that got taken to Hanford to be built as the first nuclear fission prototype reactor. And it was huge. And the amount of money that went into building that was a lot of public dollar taxpayer resources, and nothing happens without resources and help.
So let me ask you this. Was the initial foray into that, was that based with the idea of weaponry and creating that, or was it with the idea of it just simply exploring something they found? Was it for possible usage in power?
That story is complicated. It's a little bit of both, Randall. Like, they wanted to make a nuclear fission reactor for energy, Then they found that as they were doing that, they were creating other elements like plutonium.
Right.
And then like, oh, we can make more of that.
So
And then,
they
oh, we
learned about
found,
they learned spallation, they learned
uh-huh,
transmutation, they learned
uh-huh,
byproducts of minerals and
particle accelerators,
yeah,
basically.
right.
And then they found a new element as they were doing that at Hanford. It was americium. And that was a trade secret by the government at Hanford for many years. The americium was a byproduct. And now you can find americium in your smoke detector at home.
Hey, the commercial applications, really what I would love to see is the day comes where our rad waste becomes in the culture. It practically is a lexicon in the culture where, you say Google, you say quantum kinetics, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would love that to happen, but it also, we've talked about future business potential and the good things that we can do, not just to clean up waste. So that brings us back to taking one problem away and making it zero. What about taking some things that are zero now and making them positive territory?
Yeah.
How do we grow into some of the things that our byproducts can do, or even some different applications of our technology?
Sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And again,
the future is bright.
It starts with this.
The future is bright with nuclear fusion, and in a good way. It's just a sustained micro star on the bench, or in an intermodal, or in next to your home, or in your car, or even in a pocket watch, or something like that, right? Or even in your chest, right?
Well, if you're one guy.
Yeah.
So going back to one of our tabletop things too, we really enjoyed, I think it was season 2 where we went out in the yard.
Oh, now we're going way, boy.
Well,
time machine.
Point being is we could do this with solar panels.
Yeah.
I just want to reiterate that we didn't have to conjure up some kind of scheme to get a lot of electricity out there.
Mm-hmm.
We did it on a tabletop with a 12-volt battery. We could do it with solar panels. As I said, this is about the equivalent of a modern gaming computer to do all of that, and we can clean a lot of nuclear waste in that intermodal
every day.
container.
Yeah, and
every day.
And by the way, the solar panels, the RC solar panels are on order and they're coming, and so we'll be able to have, just for this model, we'll have the tiny little solar panels that power the LEDs.
Yeah.
So it'll be like right now it's running on a battery, but we'll have for this model to show you that we can do that. It's easy, but the real model will have 5,000 watt solar panel array on top,
right?
Which we've calculated the pumps, we've calculated the rates, obviously, the electronics to do it, the security and all that. And 5,000 watts the amount of energy for the reactors themselves is around, all of them, is around 4,000 or 400 to 600 watts.
Wait,
for
what?
all of them. That's a computer. That's a.
I know it's crazy though, isn't it?
And then the pumps actually pull more power, and then the electricity for the everything else, and security, and the remote internet access to satellite, that actually pulls more power than the actual reactors inside.
Right.
Which, if you were going to do nuclear fusion sustainably on planet Earth that was green, that would be the way to do it.
Yes.
A solar panel runs your nuclear fusion intermodal container anywhere in the world. Antarctica, on a boat, in the open ocean. I mean, look, if you are wanting a real viable commercial product for nuclear fusion, this is it. It doesn't get any better than this. It's the solution.
Yeah. And we have a development cycle in mind. We have our funding cycle in mind, and we have a few things that are going to move this along. And the day is coming. And
it is close. It's really close. And
it's really close.
I want to say one final thing before we kind of get really close to wrapping up here is that the CFO, Riley, he met with someone for coffee. And he mentioned to this person at coffee about what we can do, what we've discovered, and what our tests have shown. And the lady said, right after he told her this, she said, why on earth would anyone oppose or get in the way of what you're trying to accomplish here? That is the question for the audience. That is the question for everybody out there, is that if what this technology does is it just basically creates a total polarization event for humanity's culture and politics and
Yep.
social economics, and even the planet. Like, if you cannot have a kid-like love for your neighbor and the environment and making a world better through this way, the technology, you need to have a serious check on yourself.
Well, yeah, we already know that there are some that won't want it to happen, and it's economics driven. It's not because of what it can do for the environment. It's not what it can do for, on with these future products and so forth. There's incentives to keep things the way they are for some people. We've alluded to that in earlier podcasts. We don't need to delve too far into that. Just say that we know that there are those forces that will work against this until they must capitulate to the will of the people.
It's really important to understand that evolutionary processes in nature are meant to improve, right? Mm-hmm. Like a crab will evolve to a certain new pincer. Like a crab will go from a normal pincer to a pistol shrimp that shoots a shock wave that stuns another mollusk and then eats it. Like, evolutionary processes are critical to the evolutionary advancements of any species. And yes, we are a species on Earth, and we are on the verge of evolutionary development right now with this technology. And we need to understand that we have to do this with the right mindset of love for everyone on planet Earth, because we're all in this together. It's a spaceship. We're floating. We're going 365,000 miles an hour or something like that around the sun. We're a spaceship, and we're all in charge of this thing. And we have to. This technology, Randall, is going to break down the walls of nations. It's going to break down the pariah of you're bad, I'm good. It's gonna erase all of that, because what it's all gonna be about is the one language of love.
Yeah, and if it minimizes the impact of economics and the forces that drive that into things like fighting over resources and things like that, if you can remove some of the barricades and the barriers, you've done yourself and your world justice and good.
And there's no reason to fight over anything. If you can turn on an arc reactor and create steam for your home or energy for your car to run a car down the road or whatever.
Yeah.
A Mr. Fusion, a DeLorean Mr. Fusion, that's the reactor right there. And you can do that. Why would you fight over anything? Oil, gas.
Well, and again, there's legacy dollars at hand. And
they can make money too. They'll make money.
But
I promise.
As I once said in an episode earlier, if they don't see themselves in it, they're not going to be for it until they do, because they've got a bottom line to support as well. And it was based on a bad old model that we're essentially, I don't want to say replacing, we augment, but we become a separate standalone in time.
Yeah. And we have to evolve. That's all I have to say is, like, politically, economically, everything. Like, color doesn't matter. Skin color doesn't matter. What matters is Martin Luther King, the content of your character. That's what matters.
Yeah.
And nuclear fusion is going to make that the most important part of our society. Is, what do you care about? Do you care about your friends? You care about your family? You care about your neighbors? We don't have to fight anymore.
Yeah. Well,
what an amazing thing.
You did say something that stuck with me, and I've pondered this, and it's true to kind of reiterate now. And that is 3 types of people in the world. There's heroes, there's villains, and there's cowards.
It's like the sheepdog. The hero is a sheepdog. The cowards are the sheep eating the green grass. Funny. And then the wolves are shaped. They have like the coats of the sheep. And the sheepdog goes around smelling the sheep to make sure that it's actually a sheep. Yeah. And then when he smells a wolf, he barks. And then all the sheep look at him and go, "Why are you barking, dude? You're so annoying. Like, why are you barking?"
That wasn't the analogy I was thinking of, but I guess that kind of works too. So
just want to put some seasoning on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. But I still see this too. And I was going to evolve the thought to this. The further this goes, the more the cowards are stepping into the background, because
oh my God.
And now we're starting to see, as we step into the forefront more, it's really down to heroes and villains.
There was a person that we talked to in the nuclear space who was helping us with some testing. And when he saw the data, he called me and said, McKane, I have good news for you and bad news for you. I think I may have mentioned this already, but he said, McKane, there's 1% of the population is going to know what you've done here.
Less than that.
And of that 1%, half of it are going to be good people that try to help you. The other half of that 1% are going to be bad people that try to stop you or steal it.
Right. And the cowards aren't necessarily cowards if they just don't know and they're naive or uneducated about it. That's not their own fault.
Right.
It's just that they happen to be the drug along in it with us. So,
well, nuclear energy is a very complicated topic. I mean, you have Curies, you have BUs, you have microsieverts. I mean, like nuclear energy in a general is a pretty complex system. And I mean, I've spent 10 years of my life as an artist learning nuclear energy. And this is what you see. This is 10 years of hard work trying to learn it, just like Richard Feynman. I'm just a normal guy that just worked really hard. That's it, right? We're all the same. And so I'm trying to teach you guys, and we're trying to teach you guys what's possible with nuclear fusion in the most basic, simplistic way we can as teachers. And that's our job. And we enjoy it. We really enjoy coming and talking to you guys about this and telling you about the future. Because if something happens to us, you're going to know the path. And it's all right there.
Yeah. There'll be glowing breadcrumbs. Okay. Anything else in closing for something that kind of puts the bow on season 3? And then I can't wait to get season 4 launched. And I hope we have some things to share in season 4 that are further along than where we are today.
Every single day is an exciting day at Quantum Kinetics. And I just want to say thank you, everyone, for subscribing. 500,000 subscribers. We have people from all around the world. We have India, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia. I mean, they're America, Denmark, everywhere. I mean, it's interesting actually to talk about that real quick, is that a lot of people in the US are kind of like saying, ultimate clickbait, don't touch. But everyone around the world that has a childlike mind, like people in India and Pakistan and all these other places, they love it. They may not understand everything, but they love what they're looking at. They love the energy. They love what's going on. But the point I'm trying to make here is that your inner child already knows the answer. And when you see it, there's a little part in your soul that goes, oh my gosh, that's it. But we have in our society killed the inner child.
Yeah.
And so we become adults. And so when you see this as, oh, it's clickbait, it's the ultimate clickbait, what you're really doing is saying, I'm letting my child die.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah. Well, you should see me. I still cannonball into the pool if you want to see somebody who has a childlike spirit.
Oh, you just got that in B-roll, boss. You wanted to put that in there. But basically, thank you so much, everyone. And we are forging a new direction that has never been done before. So thank you with all your support and help, and all you investors that have been sticking with it and being awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
We're so close, and we couldn't be here without you. And Randal, thank you so much,
brother,
for making the call. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Quantum Kinetics First Diffusion, Season 3, Episode 8. Always remember,
fusion is love.
You can say it. You can say it louder.
You don't have to
force it.
It just happens.
It just happens. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.